How could you do this to us, Nate? I demanded, my voice cracking. 2 years, and you're willing to throw it all away? Nate shrugged, his eyes cold and detached. Sometimes we realize what we truly want a little too late, he said, looking over my shoulder. Meet Claire. She's everything I need. I felt a knife twist in my gut. Claire walked into our home like she owned it, her arms wrapped around Nate's waist. I stood there in my navy blue dress, candles flickering on the dinner table. The fragrance of home-cooked lasagna, a favorite of Nate's, clung to the air. This was supposed to be a celebration of our second wedding anniversary, a night I had meticulously planned. Nate shook his head, stepping closer to me. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be, he said, throwing a manila envelope onto the dining table. I already knew what was inside. Divorce papers? I stuttered, my breath catching in my throat. You're leaving me for her? Claire smirked, stepping right next to Nate. People change, Liz, she said, her voice like nails on a chalkboard. The walls of my carefully built life were crumbling. Rage and hurt bubbled under my skin, but I forced myself to stay composed. I wouldn't give either of them the satisfaction of seeing me break. So, this is it? I asked, leveling my gaze at Nate. You just walk away and forget everything we've built? Yes, Liz, he replied, his tone maddeningly calm. This is it. Nate turned, leading Claire toward the door. As they reached the threshold, Claire glanced back with an almost triumphant look. Goodbye, Liz, Nate said, not meeting my eyes. And just like that, the door closed, leaving me alone in a house that now felt foreign. My knees buckled and I slumped into a chair, staring at the divorce papers on the table. The ink was smudged from tears I didn't remember shedding. 2 years, gone in an instant. Had I been such a fool to miss the signs? The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I opened it to find Riley standing there, her face a mix of concern and confusion. Liz, what happened? Her eyes darted past me, taking in the scene, the untouched dinner, candles now dimmed, and the papers on the table. In a moment of clarity, I grasped the papers and held them up for her to see. Nate left, I said simply, my voice hollow. Divorce. Riley's eyes widened. What? Why? How? It's Claire. I spat the name out like it was poison. He brought her here, told me she's everything he needs. Riley stepped inside, her arms wrapping around me. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I felt a sob rise in my throat, but swallowed it down. The evening had turned from a celebration into a nightmare, and standing there felt both surreal and soul-crushing. I needed to pull myself together. I'm gonna go pack a bag, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I can't stay here tonight. Come to my place, Riley said quickly. We'll figure this out together. Nodding, I moved past her, heading toward the bedroom. Everywhere I looked, memories with Nate flashed before me. Photos on the wall, his favorite chair, our shared closet. Each piece of evidence now nothing but a reminder of his betrayal. I tossed clothes into a suitcase, each item thrown with growing anger. How could he do this to us? To me? To the home we built together? But dwelling on it wouldn't change anything. I needed to be strong, to act, to move forward. As I zipped up the suitcase and headed to the living room, Riley grabbed my hand. You're not alone in this, she said, her presence a lifeline in my storm-tossed mind. I gave her a weak smile, appreciating her more than words could say. Thanks, Riley. Let's get out of here. We walked out, leaving behind everything familiar. Nate might have blindsided me tonight, but this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Riley's apartment was a comforting chaos compared to my now sterile home. Vibrant paintings covered the walls, and the scent of fresh coffee filled the air. It felt warm, alive, everything I needed. We sat on her worn-out couch, a box of tissues between us. I clenched my mug, grateful for the heat seeping into my hands. Okay, Liz, Riley said, her tone businesslike. We need to talk about what happened. Get it all out. I took a deep breath. He just walked in with her like it was the most normal thing in the world, told me she was everything he wanted, then handed me divorce papers. Riley's eyes darkened. That bastard. How long has this been going on? I hesitated, trying to piece it all together. I don't know, but last year, do you remember the trip I funded entirely? The one he insisted was to reconnect after he'd been distant? Riley nodded, anger flashing in her eyes. You paid for everything. My God, Liz, do you think she was with him then? The realization hit me like a truck. It fits, doesn't it? He must have used that trip to meet her. And I was too blind to see it. We should have seen the signs, Riley murmured, shaking her head. He's always been a smooth talker, but this level of deceit. I stared into my coffee, my mind racing. I need to understand why, Riley. I can't move on without knowing the truth. Riley nodded, determination flaring in her eyes. Then we dig. We find out how deep his lies go. But first, you need rest. That night, sleep evaded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Nate and Claire, their smug faces haunting me. The questions wouldn't stop. How had I missed the signs? Did he ever love me? At all? Morning came with no answers. I dragged myself out of bed, Riley waiting in the kitchen, already dressed and ready. Eat something, she insisted, sliding me a plate of eggs and toast. Then we'll start digging. I managed a few bites, my appetite gone. Where do we even begin? I asked, pushing the plate away. Riley pulled out her laptop. Social media is a good start. People always slip up there. Hours passed as we scrolled through posts and photos, piecing together fragments. An uneasy pattern emerged. Nate and Claire had been together far longer than I'd realized. There were vacations, dinners, even subtle hints on business trips he claimed were solo. Look at this, Riley said, pointing to a vacation photo Nate took last year. That's the same beach Claire posted a picture from. Same date. My blood ran cold. They were there together when he said he needed space, I whispered. I funded their affair. Riley slammed the laptop shut. This is unforgivable, Liz, but we'll use this. We'll make him regret every lie. Her determination fueled my own. You're right, I said. We gather everything. We need proof for confronting him. I want everyone to know who he truly is. Riley squeezed my shoulder. We'll get through this. Together. As the days turned into nights, we dug deeper, each new piece of evidence sharpening my resolve. Every lie, every betrayal, fed my desire for justice. Nate had underestimated me. He thought I'd crumble, but he was wrong. Each sleepless night brought me closer to understanding his betrayal. I wouldn't just survive this. I would rise, stronger and wiser, and Nate would face the consequences of his actions. The first step in my revenge was clear. Gather everything. Document every betrayal. Piece by piece, I would build my case, and when the time was right, I would unleash it all, exposing Nate and Claire for what they truly were. With Riley by my side, I felt a flicker of hope. She believed in me, and that belief was my anchor. My life had shattered, but I would reclaim each shard and turn them into my armor. Nate had chosen his path. Now it was my turn to choose mine. Riley handed me a cup of tea, her eyes locked onto her computer screen. Liz, you have to see this, she said, her voice tense. I leaned over, heart pounding. The screen displayed an old social media profile of Nate's that he hadn't used in years. It's him with Claire, Riley said, pointing to a photo from 4 years ago. They were posed together, happy and carefree. My eyes narrowed. They knew each other long before you two got married, she said. Look at their captions. It's not just a fling. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. So Claire wasn't a recent love. She's always been in the background. Riley scrolled through more posts. Remember your honeymoon? They were in the same place. Claire posted pictures of the same landmarks. My heart raced. You mean Nate had her there during our honeymoon? Riley's expression was grave. It looks that way, Liz. My anger bubbled over. How could he do that? How could he betray me from the very start? We need more than just these photos, Riley said. We need proof that ties them together directly, especially financial stuff. Let's dig deeper. Hours turned into days as we collected evidence, each discovery more damning than the last. It became clear that Nate had been living a double life, vacations, dinners, gifts, all funded from our shared accounts. Found something, Riley said one evening, pulling up a credit card statement. There are charges overlapping your honeymoon on 2 different cards in different places. He couldn't have been alone. The betrayal was painfully clear now. He used our money to fund his affair, even back then. Riley nodded, grim. We need to confront him, but not yet. We need someone who knows the law. Your brother Henry? The idea clicked instantly. Yes, he'll know what to do. Calling Henry was hard. How do you tell your brother your marriage was a sham? But when he answered, his voice was the same steady anchor it always had been. Hey, Liz, everything okay? His tone carried worry. Not really, I admitted. Nate left. He's been having an affair, and it's all a mess. Henry switched to his lawyer tone. I'm coming over. We'll sort this out. An hour later, Henry sat at Riley's dining table, listening to everything we'd uncovered. This is serious, he said. Nate's crossed legal lines. Financial betrayal, maybe even fraud. I swallowed hard. What do? We document everything, Henry replied. We make sure your divorce leaves him with nothing, and we expose him for who he truly is. The plan was set. We continued gathering evidence, now with Henry's guidance. Each discovery fueled my resolve. Nate had hurt and deceived me, but I wouldn't break. I found an old journal. flipping through pages filled with Nate's sweet words and hollow promises. Every lie steeled my determination. Weeks passed in a blur of data collection. We pieced together a web of deceit that painted the full picture: Nate's careful manipulation, Claire's willing participation, and my blind trust exploited at every turn. Then one morning, Riley burst into my room, excitement radiating from her. "Liz, I found it. Proof he transferred money to Claire directly when he claimed it was for bills." I took a deep breath. "This is it. We have him." Henry reviewed the final pieces, nodding approvingly. "It's airtight. Nate and Claire won't know what hit them." The path to my revenge was finally clear. Nate had thought he could discard me like yesterday's news, but he miscalculated. I would show everyone who he really was and make sure he paid for every ounce of pain he caused. The final stage was set, and with Riley and Henry by my side, I felt ready. We'd collected all the evidence needed, and the time for confrontation drew near. Nate would face the consequences of his actions, and I would emerge stronger, reclaiming my life from the ashes of his betrayal. After weeks of digging, we finally had enough evidence to confront Nate, but I knew I couldn't just go up to him. He was the kind of man who needed to be shown, not told. Riley and I sat at her kitchen table, stacks of papers and digital files laid out before us. Henry joined us over a video call, his face stern. "Time for the next step," Henry said. "Liz, keep collecting evidence. We need to show a clear pattern of deceit and financial misuse." I nodded, steeling myself. "We need to make sure I don't come out of this with nothing," I replied, my voice firm. Riley squeezed my hand. "We're with you every step of the way." We spent the next days carefully sifting through more statements and emails. Everything had to be in order. Every piece of evidence the exact puzzle piece that would reveal the true image of Nate and Claire's betrayal. "Look at this," Riley suddenly said, excitement in her voice. "He's been transferring money to an offshore account. It's definitely not just Claire he's supporting." My eyes widened. More lies. What else is he hiding? It felt like every rock we turned exposed another secret. Nate wasn't just unfaithful. He was a con man, using me and our resources to fund a double life. One evening, Riley came into my room, laptop in hand. "Liz, you need to see this." I looked at the screen. It was their social media again, but this time it showed a recent party they attended together, flaunting their relationship. Nate was laughing, holding Claire close. "He's not even hiding it anymore." "But it," Riley said, disgust evident in her voice. "He's showing her off." A cold rage settled inside me. If he's so proud of her, let's use it. We'll expose them publicly. They want attention? Henry's voice on the phone crackled with approval. "Good idea, Liz. Nate's company is hosting a charity gala next month. Public setting, lots of eyes. Perfect opportunity." A plan started forming in my mind. We'll reveal everything there. Let his colleagues, friends, everyone see the truth. Riley grinned. "Let's make it spectacular. We can put together a slideshow, timed to reveal during his speech." The days leading up to the gala were a whirlwind of preparation. Every detail mattered. The closer we got, the more Nate flaunted his relationship with Claire, making my resolve even stronger. Riley and I spent late nights perfecting the slideshow, a devastatingly clear timeline of their betrayal, accompanied by financial records and personal photos. Each slide was a nail in the coffin of Nate's deceit. Finally, the night of the gala arrived. I dressed carefully, choosing an elegant but simple gown. I needed to look composed, untouchable. Riley, my rock, looked fierce and determined. "You ready?" she asked, scanning my face. "Ready," I said, my voice steady. Henry met us outside the venue, giving me a reassuring nod. "Let's do this." The gala was in full swing when we entered, with Nate and Claire already there, mingling with the crowd. My stomach churned, but I swallowed my nerves. This was my chance to reclaim my life and expose them. We approached the AV team discreetly, showing them the memory stick with our presentation. "Play this during Nate Walker's speech," Riley instructed, her tone brooking no argument. The team nodded, oblivious to the bombshell they were about to unleash. As Nate took the stage, smug and self-assured, my heart raced. Riley gave my hand a final squeeze. Showtime. Nate started his speech, oblivious to what was coming. At the perfect moment, our carefully assembled slideshow began to play, each sordid detail flashing on the screens around the room. Gasps filled the air. Nate's confident facade crumbled as he looked at the evidence laid bare for all to see. Claire's face turned a ghostly white. I stepped forward, voice clear and strong. "This is who you've trusted and praised. A liar, a cheat, a thief. This is the real Nate Walker." The room buzzed with shocked whispers and judgmental glares. My trap had worked. Nate and Claire's masks were stripped away, their true selves exposed to everyone who mattered in their world. As we walked out of the gala, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Riley's arm around me, Henry following close behind. This was just the beginning of their downfall. But for me, it marked the start of something new. A life free from Nate's deception. A future I would reclaim on my terms. The fallout from the gala was immediate and brutal. Nate's phone must have been flooded with calls and messages. Good. He deserved every bit of it. Riley and I celebrated our small victory with takeout and wine on her couch. To the first step, Riley said, raising her glass. To the first step, I echoed, clinking glasses. But this wasn't over. It was just beginning. The next morning, Henry joined us again, looking pleased. Nate's image took a significant hit. His colleagues are questioning his integrity, and word's spreading fast. But he'll try to spin it, Riley pointed out. We need more. Agreed, Henry leaned forward. Liz, we need a plan to leverage the evidence we gathered. Make sure it sticks legally, I nodded. I've been discreetly collecting more evidence of his financial irresponsibility, both in our accounts and his dealings with Claire. Riley opened her laptop, pulling up our files. Here's everything we've found. Transfers, unknown expenses, deposits into that offshore account. He was careful, but not enough. Henry's eyes glinted with approval. This is strong. We document it, present it to his company, and if needed, the authorities. Anger still simmered in me, but now it was focused. Let's do this. He won't get away with it. Riley and I spent the next week compiling all our findings into a comprehensive report. I dug through old emails, flagged suspicious activity, and categorized everything neatly. One day, as I was sorting through our old bank statements, Riley burst in, excitement lighting up her face. Liz, we have a shot at a public reveal. Nate's company is hosting another event, a major board meeting. My mind raced. We need to get into that meeting. Henry agreed. If we can get a presentation in front of his board, we can ensure his downfall professionally and personally. We strategized, figuring out how to gain access to the meeting scheduled in a week. Riley charmed her way into getting us the meeting details, while Henry pulled some legal strings to ensure we could attend. The night before the meeting, I felt a mix of anticipation and nerves. We have everything, right? I asked, double-checking our files. Absolutely, Riley said confidently. Nate won't know what hit him. Henry added, Remember, Liz, you're just presenting facts. Let them see the truth. The morning of the meeting, we walked into Nate's company with our heads held high. Security gave us curious looks, but our credentials and appointment details were solid. The boardroom was intimidating, long table, expensive suits, and stern faces. Nate looked up, surprise turning to anger as he saw us enter. What are you doing here, Liz? He growled. I met his gaze evenly. Presenting the truth, Nate. We set up our presentation. As each slide flicked by showing the depth of Nate's deceit, his face paled. The board members' expressions ranged from shock to outright fury. One of the board members, Mr. Evans, leaned forward. Is this true, Walker? Did you embezzle funds for personal use? Nate stammered. This is all lies, fabricated by a bitter ex-wife. Henry stood up. We have validated evidence, financial statements, transfer records, and even personal emails tying Mr. Walker to substantial financial misconduct. The room erupted in whispers. Nate's attempts to defend himself fell flat against the overwhelming evidence. Finally, Mr. Evans raised a hand for silence. Mr. Walker, you're hereby suspended pending a full investigation. Ms. Thompson, we appreciate your courage in bringing this to our attention. Nate's face twisted in fury. You'll regret this, Liz. I met his glare with unwavering resolve. No, Nate, you will. As we left the building, a sense of justice washed over me. This wasn't the end of Nate's downfall, but it was a critical blow. Thanks to Riley and Henry, the truth was out, and we had taken a huge step toward reclaiming my life. Riley hugged me tight. You did it, Liz. It's not over yet, I said, determination hardening my voice. But we're getting there. The charity gala was as grand as events get. A sea of elegant dresses, tailored suits, and clinking champagne glasses. But underneath the glitter and glamour, there was an electric sense of anticipation. This was the night we would reveal everything. Riley and I entered the venue, our confidence a stark contrast to the last gala we attended. Henry had secured our invite under the pretense of his legal firm's sponsorship. We had meticulously planned every step. As Nate took the stage for his keynote speech, I felt the familiar mix of anger and determination bubble up. He began speaking, his voice smooth, masking the lies we were about to expose. Riley nudged me. You good? I nodded, clutching the remote for the projector. Let's do this. Nate was halfway through his speech when I stepped forward. The room's atmosphere shifted as the first slide flickered on behind him. Excuse me, everyone, I said, my voice cutting through Nate's practiced monologue. He froze, confusion morphing into anger. What are you doing, Liz? Ignoring him, I pressed the remote and the damning slideshow began. Photos of Nate with Claire, financial statements showing his embezzlement, private messages, each slide painted a clearer picture of his betrayal. Gasps and whispers spread through the crowd. Nate's mask of composure cracked, his eyes darting between the slides and the shocked faces of his colleagues. Turn it off, he demanded, but no one moved. His rage erupted. This is all fabricated. Lies. A voice rang out from one corner. Not according to the verified documentation we've received, said Mr. Evans, one of Nate's board members. This evidence is legitimate. Claire, standing among the guests, looked horrified. Nate, what is this? She yelled. Nate sputtered. Claire, it's not what it looks like. Another woman's voice cut him off. Oh, it's exactly what it looks like. An unexpected twist. Jane, a colleague Nate had also been seeing secretly, stepped forward. Nate promised me we'd be together, Jane said, her voice shaking with anger. He's been lying to all of us. The room erupted into chaos. Colleagues, friends, even some family members, all bombarding Nate with accusations and questions. His carefully constructed facade was crumbling. Henry approached me, a satisfied smile on his face. We've done it, Liz. He can't talk his way out of this. Nate's parents, who had been watching silently, finally spoke. Nate, how could you do this to Liz? To us? His mother asked, tears in her eyes. As Nate tried to salvage what was left of his reputation, Riley handed him our final document, divorce papers, detailing his infidelity and financial misconduct in legal terms. You have been served, she said coldly. I stepped closer, meeting Nate's eyes. You underestimated me. This isn't just about revenge. It's about justice. Nate was escorted off the premises, humiliated and defeated. The truth was out, and there was no hiding anymore. As we left the event, a sense of vindication settled over me. Nate's damage was exposed, his reputation irreparably tarnished. It was a hard-fought victory, but worth every battle. Riley hugged me, her eyes shining with pride. You did it, Liz. You took back control. Henry added, and from here, it only gets better. The night was still, a stark contrast to the storm we had unleashed inside. It felt like the dawn of a new chapter, one where I no longer played the victim, but took charge of my own story. We walked into the night, leaving behind the shattered remains of Nate's deceitful life. And as we moved forward, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. My journey wasn't over, but the hardest part was behind me. With Riley and Henry by my side, I knew I could face whatever came next. Nate's downfall was just the beginning. The road to rebuilding my life stretched out before me, filled with possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, I was ready to embrace it all. As we walked out of the venue into the crisp night air, the weight of everything we had done finally hit me. Nate was exposed, but this didn't erase the pain he caused. The legal battle was just beginning, but I felt a strange sense of calm. Riley's phone buzzed, snapping me back. She glanced at it and grinned. Henry says Nate is already trending for all the wrong reasons. The company's in damage control mode. I managed a small smile. Good. He deserves every bit of it. The next morning, I sat in Riley's kitchen, sipping coffee and scrolling through endless news alerts about Nate. He had gone from being a respected figure to a public disgrace overnight. Riley came in holding up her phone. Liz, you need to see this. She handed me her phone, showing a live feed from a local news station. Nate's image filled the screen as he tried to push through a crowd of reporters. Nate Walker, is it true you embezzled funds from your company to support your affair? One reporter shouted. Mr. Walker, what do you have to say to your family and your ex-wife? Another chimed in. Nate's face was a mask of rage and panic. No comment, he snapped, shoving past them and into a car. I handed the phone back to Riley, my resolve hardening. He's losing control. We need to keep up the pressure. We spent the day gathering more evidence, strengthening our case against Nate. By the afternoon, we had collected enough to ensure he wouldn't wriggle out of his legal and financial obligations. Later, Henry called. Liz, you did great last night, but we need to move fast. Nate's likely to make desperate moves. Have you considered reaching out to his other victims? I hadn't. You think they would help? If they've suffered like you have, they might. Solidarity can be powerful, Henry replied. Riley and I created a list of Nate's known affairs and financial victims, contacting each one discreetly. Some were hesitant, but a few agreed to meet us, willing to share their stories. One of the women, Ellen, agreed to meet us in a local cafe. She looked worn, bearing the weight of Nate's deceit. "I never thought he'd cheat on me, too," she said, eyes filled with regret. "Thank you for coming forward, Ellen," I said. "We need your help to bring Nate to justice." Ellen nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes. No one else should fall for his lies." As word spread, more women and colleagues stepped forward, providing us with valuable testimony. Each one added a piece to the puzzle, solidifying our case. One evening, as we compiled the final pieces, Riley pulled up an email from an anonymous source. "Liz, you should see this." The email contained even more damning evidence, proof that Nate had siphoned funds from multiple accounts and falsified documents to cover his tracks. It was the nail in his coffin. "This is it," Henry said, looking over the email. "We've got him. Nate won't be able to escape this." The next step was a final confrontation. We arranged a meeting with Nate, our evidence airtight. He arrived, looking haggard and desperately defiant. "What do you want, Liz?" he spat, still clinging to his arrogance. I laid out the evidence, each damning piece more devastating than the last. Nate's facade crumbled as he saw the extent of what we had. "You're finished, Nate," I said. "This is your chance to come clean and make amends, or we take this to court, and you lose everything." Nate's bravado melted away, replaced by a look of utter defeat. "What do you want from me?" he whispered. "Admit everything," I said firmly. "Apologize to those you've hurt and make restitution, then step out of my life forever." Nate nodded, his eyes hollow. "I will." As he walked out, I felt a sense of closure. Nate was broken, and his path of destruction was finally at an end. I turned to Riley and Henry, a weight lifting off my shoulders. "He's done," Riley said, relief evident in her voice. Henry added, "And now you can start rebuilding, Liz, on your terms." Standing there with my friends, I realized my journey wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, finding strength in my scars, and moving forward with newfound purpose. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it, one step at a time. As the weeks passed, the fallout from Nate's exposure remained relentless. His career was in ruins, his social circle evaporated, and he faced mounting legal trouble. The divorce proceedings moved quickly with Henry's expert guidance, leaving Nate with barely a fraction of what he once had. One evening, Riley and I sat on her balcony, sipping wine. "It's almost surreal," I said, watching the sunset, "how everything came crashing down around him." Riley nodded. "He deserved every bit of it. But now, it's your turn to rebuild." She was right. I'd been so focused on bringing Nate down, I hadn't given much thought to what came next for me. With the divorce settled and Nate out of my life, the future lay wide open. "Have you thought about what you'd like to do?" Riley asked. "I have," I said, a small smile creeping up. "I want to help others who've gone through similar betrayals. Maybe start a charity." Riley's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That's a brilliant idea, Liz, and you'd be amazing at it." Together, we began sketching out plans for the charity. We envisioned a support network for people who had faced betrayal, providing legal assistance, counseling, and emotional support. It felt empowering, turning my pain into a purpose to help others. In the meantime, life started to stabilize. I picked up more hours at the hospital, finding solace in my work and strength in my colleagues' support. There was one in particular, James, a kind and understanding doctor who had joined the staff recently. One afternoon, as I was leaving the hospital, James caught up to me. "Liz, I've been meaning to ask, would you like to grab dinner sometime?" I paused, surprised but pleased. "I'd like that, James. Dinner sounds great." Our dinner dates became a regular thing. James was gentle, respectful, and patient, giving me space to heal while also supporting my new endeavors. As we grew closer, I felt a warmth I hadn't realized I missed. One evening, over dinner at a cozy restaurant, James looked at me with a mix of concern and care. "Liz, you've been through so much. I just want you to know I'm here for you, no matter what." I reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "Thank you, James. You've been a light in all this darkness." James smiled. "I'm glad I can be there for you." Things with James felt natural and right, a stark contrast to the turmoil with Nate. It was as if I was finally allowed to breathe, to live. Amid all this, news of Nate filtered through occasionally. He had lost his job, his reputation was in tatters, and he struggled to find work. One day, I saw him working a demeaning job, a ghost of the man he once was. Justice had been served. Riley and I launched our charity, and the response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life reached out, grateful for a place to find understanding and support. Helping others brought me immense satisfaction. Seeing lives change for the better because of our work was the ultimate revenge against Nate's betrayal. On a warm spring day, James and I attended one of our charity events. He had been incredibly supportive, helping out whenever he could. As the event wound down, he pulled me aside. "Liz, I see how passionate you are about this. You're incredible," he said softly. I smiled at him, feeling truly seen for the first time in a long time. "Thank you, James. I couldn't have done it without you." He took my hand and looked into my eyes. "I'm so proud of you. We've both come a long way." In that moment, surrounded by the lives I had touched and the new life I was building, I felt a profound sense of peace. The shadows of Nate's betrayal had finally lifted. The journey had been long and painful, but I had emerged stronger, with a newfound sense of purpose and a path forward. I looked at James, at Riley, and at the people around me, and I knew I was finally home.